This morning, and I'm inclined to drop it because it's just enough's enough. But there's a cover story, Newsweek this week, Growing Up with Autism, in which the gist of the article is what happens to these kids, and these parents have to worry about this, obviously, who are growing up with autism. What happens? Who takes care of them? When they get 18 or when they get older, when their parents die, I mean, what happens to these kids? So it's a huge financial burden on society. And, of course, there's no cure, but they don't know what causes it. But contained in this article, very fine article in Newsweek, is the information that there are certain elements of the autism community who are negotiating for whatever reason, which seems insane to me, but I would qualify this by saying, as I said earlier this morning, I don't have an autistic child. I'm not living in that sort of family dynamic, and it's easy to criticize them, but these people are in hell, literally. Like all people with sick kids. I mean, you see the same thing with these kids with cancer, or like little Jeffrey comes over to see us, imagine what that family has to go through. I mean, it's just, you know, Charles lived next door to a family with an autistic child for years.
With a child-eye man who was nearing his 20th birthday. And you, I mean, you cannot, well, go ahead. You can't believe it. It's hell on earth was what it was.
But the Combating Autism Act, which we helped get through the Senate by unanimous consent, was a remarkable bill in that it called for a specific amount of money. The bill was about a $920 million bill. It called for a specific amount of money to be devoted to environmental research, mandating the NIH to do that. Also called for 21 centers of excellence around the country, places for people with autistic children and families to go and so on. So the bill landed over on Joe Barton's desk there at the House, and he's the chairman of the committee. He was responsible for signing off on it, and he decided to sit on it because he had his own NIH bill and claimed that there were elements of his bill that contained elements in the Combating Autism Act, which of course is just not true, and he's lying about it. But for whatever reason, people in the autism community now are negotiating with Joe Barton, who is not going to be the chairman of the committee come January. Old Dingle is. So from Michigan, wherever he's from. So it would pass. It already has enough votes to pass in the House as is. And what the autism community has done, or at least elements of it, is we've helped them get the ball down the field 95 yards to the 5-yard line. It's first down. They got plenty of time. They're kicking a field goal. So Barton has bullied these people for taking advantage of these people making emotional decisions primarily. A lot of them do. No matter how smart they are, you know, you get caught in that family dynamic, and you have to live with that every day, you know. I'd be careful, including me, about criticizing, because as Charles said, it's a hell they're in. But he has now forced them to take out the requirement that the NIH spend a specific amount of money on environmental research. Of course, he's saying, so, well, of course, we still support environmental research. We'll just give all the money to the NIH and let them decide. Well, then they say, well, yeah, but we're going to have an advisory board, and on that advisory board, according to Newsweek, we're going to have an autistic parent and somebody who is autistic. I don't know what input they're going to get from them. Well, the history of the NIH, they're not going to spend any money on environmental research, or a minimal amount. And why don't we have a cure for cancer? Well, there's still people looking for a gene that causes cancer. Well, we know that people who contract cancer or autism or all these other diseases, the suspicion is that they're genetically predisposed and that something serves as a trigger. What serves as a trigger? Something probably in the environment. There are people who think that there is some connection between thimerosal, the mercury in vaccines, and autism. There are people who think that those people are crazy. But there's, you know, David Kirby wrote a bestseller about it, Evidence of Harm. I mean, Robert Kennedy Jr. was in Rolling Stone talking about this massive cover-up at the Center for Disease Control and the NIH, and everybody laughed at him. They said he was crazy. So why they would now settle, why then they are negotiating with Joe Barton, who is a fat, lying little cowardly skunk, and unfortunately Newsweek misquoted me and left out cowardly, a modifier there, right, Charles?
Precisely.
Why they're negotiating with him is inexplicable. And the problem is they came to me and they asked me for help, which I was more than happy to do. And there were certain people who wanted me to take it to Barton, which I was happy to do. Well, then those same people turn around and negotiate with him. It's outrageous. And if I were, there are the members of the autism community, probably, I don't have any knowledge of this, but you would think they would be outraged. There's no reason to compromise on this bill. Well, they're claiming that if they don't get something passed now, why then it'll be another year or two. That's what the lobbyists tell them. Well, Chris Dodd was on this program guaranteeing they'd get it passed if we had to go back and do it again. They could get another bill through the Senate to the House in 3 months, or maybe even less time than that. And the Democrats are more inclined to sign off on this than the Republicans were. So, but then, they want to focus on, they want to get something done so they can all run around and talk about what they did, and they ought to look in the mirror and realize who got it done for them. I don't mind helping people, but don't screw me in the process of it. So, but then, again, I just want to be clear about this. I'm not the one with the autistic child, thank God. And I'm not the one living in that, what is a nightmare for these people. And they clearly are making an emotional decision and not being rational about it, and it's unfortunate. But they want to focus on a services and treatment bill. Well, how are you going to treat a disease when you don't know what causes it? There are people who think that environmental research is nonsense. And then there are those people in the autism community who believe that. So they don't care whether there's any environmental research done or not. And if you don't mandate that the NIH do this research, they won't do it. They have a track record of not doing it. And to cut these 21 centers of excellence down to 3, well, the people who support that don't have to take their kid to a centers of excellence. They got the money to do otherwise. So it really is. It's disheartening. And I hate to pick on John Meacham and the people at Newsweek, but to write in their article, as knowledge about autism spread in the 1990s, families began to get more accurate diagnosis for children who might in the past have been labeled mentally retarded or emotionally disturbed, and the number of cases skyrocketed. They know that's not true. There are no facts to support that. March of Dimes said their statistics are the same for people being diagnosed with mental retardation as they've ever been, keeping pace with the population. And if that's the case, how come where are all the 20-year-old autistics then, or 25-year-old autistics? Why aren't they re-diagnosing people who were initially labeled mentally retarded or emotionally disturbed as autistic? There are no facts to support that. Are there? Of course not. But then look at the advertising in Newsweek. So anyway,
what?
They haven't made a deal with Barton yet, and it hasn't passed, but they claim, well, we'll pass a bill and then we'll lobby for the environmental research. No, they won't. So. But I've reached a point where I know you guys are sick of hearing about it. Believe me, I know this. And I know everybody said they don't want me to talk about it anymore. And you can help people to a point that they don't want any more help, or they're in such a mental state that they make these kinds of decisions, which on the surface. I've talked to several people about it. They said, negotiating with Barton, what are they, nuts?
Is Dingell taking over that committee? Is it?
Yes. The first thing that happened the other day when Didbert was on the air was that Dingell's wife called her. Said, well, why are they negotiating with Joe Barton?
It's good. I was just thinking, if Congressman Dingell had married Halle Berry, then their children would be dingleberries. We would not want that. So that is
very good.
So that's positive. In this overall discussion, I mean.
It is 4 minutes till 8.